Most people in our community are decent, hard-working citizens who pursue their own interests legally and without infringing on the rights of others. But there are also monsters in our communities. People who are willing to steal and kill. People who disregard the rights of others. On the 22nd of December of last year, at approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 men entered a drugstore on 145th Street in Harlem. The state will contend that one of those men was Richard Bobo Evans. The state will contend that the other man who entered the store at that time and who participated in the robbery and the murder was James King.
Petrocelli points to the table at which James King sits.
Mr. King is the man sitting at that table who is wearing a brown suit and is sitting at the right of the table. You were introduced to him during the jury selection process. He is one of the men on trial here today. The purpose of the 2 men entering the store on that Monday was very simple. They were going to rob the owner, 55-year-old Alguinaldo Nesbitt. We will show that although the 2 men did not have a gun with them, the owner of the store did have a gun for which he had a license and produced it to defend his property. Mr. Evans, who participated in the robbery, will testify that there was a struggle, which resulted in the gun being discharged and Mr. Nesbitt being killed. Mr. Nesbitt had every right to defend his property, every right not to be robbed. We all have that right. Further, there will be evidence that prior to the robbery, there was a plan, or conspiracy, to rob the store. Mr. Evans and Mr. King were to enter the store and do the actual robbery. Another of the planners of this crime was to stand outside the drugstore and impede anyone chasing the robbers. The young man who had this assignment will testify to his role in the affair. Yet another of the conspirators, the planners of this robbery that left a man dead, was to go into the store prior to the robbery to check it out, to make sure that there were no police in the store, to make sure that the coast was clear, as they say. 2 of the conspirators will testify to their understanding of this fact. The man who was to enter the store and check it out is sitting at the other table. His name is Stephen Harmon.
Cut to Steve Harmon, then close-up of the pad in front of him. He is writing the word monster over and over again. O'Brien's hand takes the pencil from his hand and crosses out all the monsters.
You have to believe in yourself if we're going to convince a jury that you're innocent.
Cut to Petrocelli.
A medical examiner will testify to the cause of death, showing that the gunshot wound was fatal. Even though it was Mr. Nesbitt's gun, it was not Mr. Nesbitt who caused his own death. This was no suicide. This death was a direct result of the robbery. Very simply put, this is a case of murder. It is, moreover, a murder committed during a felonious act. The 2 defendants you see before you will be shown to be participants in that act and are being charged with felony murder. Later, the judge will give you instructions on how to consider the evidence presented, but there is no doubt in my mind, and I believe by the end of the trial there will be little doubt in yours, that these 2 men, James King and Stephen Harmon, were all part of the robbery that caused the death of Alguinaldo Nesbitt. Thank you.
Cut to courtroom. O'Brien is at a...